Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to read an excerpt from a book that I'm reading, Think and Grow Rich. This one's been recommended to me a bunch of times over the years, and I just finally got to reading it here recently, and this part really stuck out to me, and it is this. But determination is only the first step. It must be followed by hard work, a regimen of physical and mental exercise, and whatever it takes to bring us to peak performance. That just really made a lot of sense to me. And the background to it is he was talking about Michael Jordan and how he didn't make his high school basketball team. He was cut. And how through hard work and determination and a regimen of physical and mental exercise, he got to the point of being the best basketball player on his team by the time he was through high school. And then obviously going on being the best basketball player to ever live. And then he went in reference to a whole nother instance with Michael Jordan of how he reached peak performance, MVP, championships, then retired and went to baseball for a little while. And then he came back, and there were a lot of naysayers saying he's not going to be as good, that, he's not going to be able to just pick it back up like and be the MVP he was, and how he did, and how he quieted all the critics and all the haters that said he wouldn't be able to come back and be the MVP again and win more championships. And that's exactly what he did. But that was because of his immense amount of determination and how he followed it up with not just one, but many forms of action. And that just really resonates with me with the businesses that Hill and I have developed and the people we've been around and seeing them develop their business. And determination is obviously a key component. It's obviously a foundational thing for success. But it is followed up by many forms of action. And physical is one of them, mental, just in hard work. You have to be strategic, and you have to know what things you need to do. So in Michael Jordan's instance, like it's saying in the book, he knew what he needed to do physically and mentally to get himself back into that championship level basketball shape, even though he was a little bit older. Especially with business, you have to take those hard action steps. So, Chapman, you guys obviously with TLC and even other things that you've done, marketing, things like that, but especially TLC and then going into the trailer. What are your thoughts on this determination, action, step thing?
Yeah, as I was trying to write everything down last night and looking at this verse, the big thing to me, and it happens to me a lot, is determination is cheap. Is kind of what I was thinking.
Sure.
Anybody can be determined at specific times, whether it's you waking up at 1 a.m. in the morning, you watch a video that, I'm motivated now, and that lasts for 10 minutes until you go and do something else, or you feel powerful until you go and actually, put action to that.
Right, that action step.
Yeah.
Because, I agree. You can go to the seminars, you can watch the motivational videos, listen to the motivational podcast. But are you taking that next step? Because, and to sit here, when people say, I work hard, I work a lot of hours. Okay, that's great. A lot of people do that. Congratulations. That's a minimum requirement to being super successful. Like a very minimum requirement. You got to stay humble in that frame of mind of, I work hard, I put in a lot of hours. Cool. A lot of people do that. Sorry, but that's just a very surface level requirement if you want to reach some sort of peak level of success in business, fitness, relationships, life, faith, anything. I mean, that's working hard at it is, to use a word you just used, kind of cheap. Great. Yeah. Everybody, most people can do that part.
Yeah, and I can't remember what book it was, and I was trying to figure it out last night, but I've always remembered it. It says that the determination is the spark, but sparks don't build skyscrapers. Yeah. I can't remember what book it was, and that's always kind of stuck with me, and that's what I've thought as I took classes, in college, talking about, we did a whole semester where we started our own business, like blueprint wise. We didn't actually start it, but
Right.
I think I did a movie theater. People did a bunch of other stuff, and at that time I thought, oh, I could easily do this. And we ended up doing a coffee shop when I graduated, and realized, this business plan was simple compared to what I was trying to do in college as a project, and the work that it required is crazy. And I think that's why so many people, get to that determination first step and then just kind of die off because they don't really know what happens.
Yes.
And without the structure built onto that determination going forward, it all just fades.
Yes.
And I think that's what you see probably 99% of the time.
Yeah, it really spoke to me and said, but determination is only the first step.
Yeah.
It's only the first step. A lot of people get determination, get drive, get motivated, but do they take the next step to start working hard, which is, like I said, very minimum requirement. You're going to have to work hard. But then do you actually focus on a regimen of physical and mental exercises that bring you to peak performance in your trade, in your craft, your business, your fitness?
Right.
Because you have to follow it up with tons and tons of action. And if you want to get to that peak level, it has to be more action than anybody else around you.
Yeah, and I think that's where you see a lot of people, it's the first step, but a lot of people that's the only step because they don't have what it takes, or they don't think they have what it takes to build on the discipline and peak performance following that.
Well, and that's why I like how it said not just physical, but mental.
Yeah.
Because that's where I feel like most people actually fail, is the mental part. Because
I think
physically working hard and pushing your body, you can kind of feel those after effect rewards of that. You feel good after you accomplish a 16-hour day where you get a lot of stuff done. But the mental part of getting knocked down, getting kicked to the ground, I mean, it just immediately made me think of how when Hill and I were first going to open, we wanted to open a restaurant. We wanted to go into Maroa, open a restaurant, and of course we had a bunch of naysayers, a bunch of negativity, and then I put together a business plan. I go to the first bank and they say no. A lot of people, that's where it stops.
Yeah,
they quit there just because they were told no, and in the back of my head, of course, there was like, well, dang, maybe everybody's right. This maybe wouldn't be a good idea, or it wouldn't make it type thing. I mean, heck, even people close to us were trying to caution us.
Yeah.
And I get it, but at the same time, and believe me, I'm appreciative of it because having that in my mental bank for the future and all the other things we've done has helped keep me driven with people being from the negativity of the past. But a lot of people, that's where they stop, is that I was told no. Nope, okay, I guess it won't work. Like, well, of course you're gonna, you should be told no the first time.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now figure out, like, how do I make my business plan look better? How do I get things more organized? How do I have a better plan of execution? And go to the next bank. And that's what I had to do. That's what Hill and I had to do, and go to the next bank, and boom, they said yes. And then we were able to establish that relationship, and we still bank with that same banker today, 13 years later.
Yeah, I think that as I was looking at the quote, splitting it up into parts, that first part is really, I think for most people, probably, I guess you could consider it the emotional part. You're fighting, wanting to stop, wanting to go. You're fighting what people are saying, whether it's good or bad. And then the rest of it is strictly just built on, whatever you structure or engineer yourself and put your mindset forward. Like, you kind of, I don't want to say you have to disregard the emotions after that, but once you pass the first part of determination, know you're going to do it, you go through those steps of feeling, whatever it is. The rest of it, you just have to put your head down and go for it. You have to back off of what everybody else is saying, do what you want to do, and
Yeah, and
have that
but
structure.
intentionally, and I didn't learn this till a few years in to opening the restaurants and doing opening some other businesses. But you have to be real intentional working on that mental part too. The physical part, yes, I think it's critical that you're taking care of your body physically, and no matter what level of business you're doing or sports, whatever. If you don't take care of your body physically, it's going to affect you mentally. It's going to affect how much energy you have to put in that hard work and things. So you have to take care of your body. But the mental part and really working on that, which for me has been my faith, and really working on growing my faith, relying more on Jesus, and really focusing on that has been where I've been able to grow myself mentally. Because to me, without that foundation, I just kind of could float in the wind and have, emotionally or mentally be up and down.
Yeah.
Which I've had plenty of those times over the years, when we've faced a trial and I'm trying to just muscle my way through it physically and mentally, as opposed to really grounding myself and really focusing on, okay, God's got this, but obviously I still have to take action. What do I need to do that's going to get the best outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like too. There's a couple things that we've talked about with multiple, whether it's you who have talked about it on the podcast or guests, but training your body, physically, increases discipline, which you've talked about,
Yeah.
which you need for starting a business or doing whatever, and just having good health also multiplies productivity.
For sure.
Even if it's just walking or whatever it is, at least for me, I don't have that strict of a workout plan. I need to, but even the times where I do decide I'm going to walk a couple miles on the treadmill or I'm going to go outside for a bit, just right after, just how you feel. It's just like you're like,
It's
okay,
like
I'm ready to go. Let's
that
do something
dopamine
else.
dump.
Yeah, like I
It's
get on
like
my laptop and I'm like, let's get some stuff done now.
That natural
Yeah.
dopamine dump. That's why I like to work out before I come here.
Yeah.
And we record, because I feel like I'm in a much better headspace. I'm thinking more clearly. I feel like it's just, and it's the same for any sort of, when I'm going to the office after this or something like that, I've already gotten my workout part done. I feel like, okay, I've taken care of my body. Now the hard part for me is then watching what I eat throughout the day and not just eating complete junk, because then I feel like crap by the end of the day.
Right.
But that's a whole nother level of taking care of yourself and taking care of your body. But the mental part, again, I just think that's where people start getting tripped up when they're trying to be super successful, whether that's in the gym or business or relationships. It's just they start tripping themselves up mentally if they hit a roadblock or something.
Yeah, I mean, people have to learn, once you get past a certain point, you've got to learn to control your own thoughts, control your own emotion, figure out how to regulate that kind of stuff. As I was looking through the physical and, mental differences, when you I think of athletes.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
some of the greatest athletes, those are the guys that they have their training regimen. They've got books that they write.
Yep.
And they're the champions. I mean, you could obviously talk about Kobe. You could talk about, I was thinking, because I follow him on Instagram.
Well, I think sports is
Yeah.
it is a great metaphor, because a lot of people can relate to the sports side, as opposed to, if, like this book, using a sports metaphor like Michael Jordan, as opposed to some business metaphor that, half the audience probably wouldn't even have heard of that business person.
Right.
As opposed to using someone like Michael Jordan and using that metaphor. Yeah, for sure. I think that helps translate it to where we can understand it better. Like, okay, well, if Michael Jordan had to put himself through crazy workouts, physically and mentally, to get himself to this peak performance, to be able to win championships again and be the best basketball player in the NBA, obviously I'm going to have to do the same for whatever I want to be successful at. Like, if I want to reach peaks, and that's fine. If there's a lot of people that don't want to reach that peak, that's perfectly fine.
Well, and those guys too, they didn't just rely on, motivation. Like, they relied on, discipline, routines.
You have to, because there are
Things
going to
like
be
that at
days
that
that you're
level.
not motivated. There
Or
are
they're gonna
days
get
where I
passed.
don't want to go to the gym, but I go anyways because I know I have to. I know that's what I need to do, and
Well,
that's what separates. That's where you start getting that gap between average and good, and then good and great, because the average person would skip the workout.
Well,
Right.
that kind of goes, right into the next point of, whatever it takes.
Yes.
That's the last point is, whatever it takes to bring us to peak performance.
Well, I think like I said, that's why I love this little clip. I mean, and whatever it takes. He didn't limit it to physical and mental exercises. It was and whatever it takes. So, because he wanted to make sure and encapsulate, if this isn't just a sports metaphor. In business, you're going to have to, maybe what you have to do is you have to cold call 100 people a day.
You have to get uncomfortable. That's kind of what I thought.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Whatever it takes. Maybe you need to send 100 emails a day. Or, you're trying to grow your media company. You need to post 10 times a day. Just start doing it. Getting repetitions in. I can think of that with just when I'm training somebody to make pizza. The first 10 pizzas they make, it's a huge, huge struggle.
Yeah.
By the time they've made 100 pizzas, they're starting to get the hang of it. It's the same thing. You got to put in the repetitions, whatever it takes, for being successful. And that goes for, again, we talk about relationships. You got to put the repetitions into growing your marriage, to being a better parent, to being a better friend, better community member. You have to be intentional about that. I mean, there's going to be things where you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to push yourself.
Sacrifice things,
Absolutely.
Release
And I
some
think that's the only part
distractions
that maybe in that quote that I would like to have seen was, and be prepared to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
Because obviously, and maybe he just thinks that goes without saying, but Michael Jordan made sacrifices to get to that peak level.
Yeah.
You are going to have to make sacrifices to get to, whether you're just trying to get your body in shape, you're going to have to sacrifice eating the donut every day. You're going to have to sacrifice
weekends.
The going out on the weekends. You're going to have to sacrifice those things. And I think it also goes with, you're going to have to give some things up if you want to get to some peak level of performance in your business or physically or anything like that. This made me think of, for me, when I was making the decision that, okay, I do not want to be average. I was 21 years old. I would go out on the weekends and I worked a lot, but I wouldn't say I was trying to improve myself anymore. I would say just average. I worked out some, but then I made that decision. I'm like, okay, I want to get better physically and mentally. I want to make something of myself. And that's when I decided, okay, well, I'm selling all my video games. Selling all video game stuff, because I like to play video games. I was 20, growing up, playing video games with my friends is one of the things that we did. So I had to I literally sold all my video game stuff at 21. At the time I was single, 21, and just working a lot. Sold all my video games because I knew that would give me more time and space if that distraction wasn't even an option. And then I stopped going out every weekend. And then I said, okay, now I'm going to start working out 5 days a week instead of kind of casually 3. Okay, now I'm going to start to understand nutrition and getting my diet in check. And okay, well, I only weigh 160 some pounds. I want to put on muscle. I want to get to 185 was my goal at the time. Well, I figured out with how my metabolism worked, I needed to drink 3 protein shakes a day and eat protein to start to gain weight. But I wouldn't have created that space if I did not sacrifice and give up certain things to create that opportunity, because I had a higher goal. And it was hard at first, of course. Who doesn't like to play some video games with their friends?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head as far as, if you're willing to do it, you have to trade some things off. You have to switch things for better things, or, you might not think it at the time, but...
Right.
Yeah.
And still to this day, sacrifices Hill and I have to make certain sacrifices, whether, sometimes it's some time with the kids because we got to accomplish this thing, but we want our kids to see us accomplish that thing. So that's okay. That's an okay trade-off to us. And then sometimes we got to sacrifice the thing to make sure we spend time with the kids because that's what we feel like is most important at that time. And same obviously goes for our marriage. We put an extreme amount of importance on our marriage and making sure that we're always intentional about working on our marriage and getting closer and doing things like praying together and spending intentional time together, trying to keep a date night every couple weeks and things like that. It's just so important. But once again, that does come at a cost. We have to sacrifice something along the way to make that happen. But those are our priorities, taking care of our marriage and our kids, our faith, and growing the businesses, because it's not just about us anymore. We have a lot of employees that rely on us. So we have to be diligent about making sure that we are taking care of the legal things that are needed, the accounting things that are needed, and then just the things of, okay, how do we intentionally grow these businesses? Because staying still isn't to me, isn't acceptable. We have to continue to be intentional about growing.
Yeah. Yeah, just kind of pulling it back and looking at all of this stuff. It's the last few steps that really say, who's willing to pay the full price to be successful.
Sure.
And, everybody can be determined. Fewer people move on to the next step, and then it's just the select few that actually go through and do all three things. And, one thing that I was as I was trying to wrap up all these pieces, the determination kind of decides, who's going to start it, and the discipline decides who's going to move to the next step or finish it. But then really the overall structure and, whatever it takes are the people that win, I feel like.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. I think that at the end of the day, as long as you are intentional and taking action, you're always going to have a level of success. To get to that extra next level is when you're going to have to start making really hard sacrifices and letting go of things that, I know a big one for a lot of people is, drinking with their buddies or, going out on the weekends or eating whatever I want on the weekends. Like, I'll eat good during the week, I'll eat whatever I want on the weekends. Okay, well, for some people, that their metabolism, that's okay. But for somebody that's 100 pounds overweight, that's not you're going to keep spinning your wheels on trying to get yourself to that next level of health and fitness. But if you're I agree with you. At the end of the day, though, all right, if you're willing to do whatever it takes and every situation is different, then yes, you can get to that level of success that you want to get to. But I just think you have to be intentional about what action you need to take, and then really just going all in on those actions, and then continuing to actually push yourself. And just because one day I need to stick to 3,000 calories a day for okay, well, if you want to get to the next level, you're going to have to change that to 2,800. Always reassessing, always seeing what can I do to improve in that area to continue to grow. So, and I think, like you said, but just wrapping this up, though, I really think you have to be also okay with failing and learning from those failures to really then learn from them and then capitalize using what you've learned to then implement next step actions. But being determined and having hard work is just so minimum. Really be intentional about putting it all into action and growing yourself.